Welcome to a Delco Nerd Network podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Ragucci, and this is Beyond County Lines, where we talk to folks beyond the borders of Delaware County, Pennsylvania, to talk about a certain topic. Today's topic is going to be JRPG hot takes, and my guest from across the pond in jolly old England, Richard of Desert Island Games. Richard, how the hell are you, man?
I'm good. Yeah, as I said it before we recorded, a little bit on the tired side. Was up very early recording at Desert Island Games because the guest I had on lived in South Korea, so it was a struggle to get out of bed this morning for a 7 o'clock recording. But yeah, I'm good. I'm ready to get angry at some JRPG hot takes.
So when I was writing these down, I'm like, I feel like I have to like sometimes when I do hot takes, it's not like a character, but I'm like, I feel like I need to get overly mad about it, even though I might not feel that strongly about it. Like some of them, I'm just there needs to be a character with every single one I got here. So yeah. Do you have a list of 5 or do you have?
I have a list of 5.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be quite intrigued to see if we've hit any kind of similar topics. Because obviously we didn't say there was we had to word them in any way, so it'd be interesting to see if we have actually got similar topics when we go through them. But yeah, I've got a list of 5.
Yeah, so to just kind of, the title kind of says it all, right? We're talking about RPGs and what we hate about them. the hot takes, the things we probably aren't saying all the time, but it's all we really want to say them all the time.
This was spawned from when we sat down, didn't we? And it came from my opinion of Octopath Traveler, which we didn't get into.
No,
not a lot. So that's where it came from. So
right.
It's quite interesting to sit down and kind of discuss these feelings about. I love the genre. I love the JRPG genre, but
yeah, my
God, there's some serious problems with it.
So do you want to start us off? I feel like it's only right for the guest.
Okay, yeah, I'll start off. Octopath is a terrible game.
Jesus, we're going that. I have no Octopath hot takes, so this is probably all we'll talk about. Octopath Traveler is a terrible game.
Yeah, it's a terrible game.
Okay, I don't agree with you. Why do you think it's terrible? Go for it.
My save is about 40 hours in. So I'm going to premise this first. I haven't completed the game. I know the game is a good 100 hours or whatever. I'm at the point now where I've done people's chapter 2 stuff. And it feels like, I don't know how to describe this, but it's like you draw a small circle, then you draw a bigger circle, and you're just going around in circles all the time. And I find it I just find it frustrating. There has to be more. For me, a JRPG needs more than just good soundtrack, gameplay, and graphics to carry me through. I need a reason to get to that end. Now, I know I haven't got to that end, and it's really disrespectful for me to say about that game but I feel like after 40 hours, I know if I'm going to like that game. And I genuinely think soundtrack amazing, gameplay amazing, graphically beautiful, but I find the gameplay. So I should premise this really. Octopath Traveler's gameplay is terrible. There you go. That's or not gameplay because that's the mechanics, but the story, that kind of stuff. There you go.
Yeah,
that part is terrible.
Real quick, before we continue, I just want to make sure I'm recording because I'm after all these technical issues, that's the last thing I want to go have. So let me get up and go check.
Yeah, you're right. That'd be its own hot take.
We're good.
Wait, that'd be its own hot take.
Existential fuck. I've been running my ass off. There's a good chance I didn't hit record or hit it again. But
you should have seen this before. For people who are listening, Anthony was left, right, and center. We were both. I was having camera issues with one of my cameras. It was flickering only in Discord for some weird reason, and Anthony was running left, right, and center. I thought he was doing laps.
I did the way I have my setup for shit when I can't confirm something, I have to get up. And if anyone listens to the podcast, for those who aren't new, this is probably nothing. This is literally nothing new. I do that fairly regularly. But anyway, I can't help but I don't disagree with you to some extent. I think that the Octopath loop is pretty terrible.
Yeah,
especially if you're going into 40 hours plus.
Yeah,
it's hard to disagree because that is my thing with the game. I would never recommend anyone beat it. Like, there really isn't a point. And unless you really are engaged in all 8 characters and you want to see all their stories to the end. Other than that, I'm just kind of like, yeah, like, you played for 20 hours, you didn't even beat one of the stories, that's fine. And I'm not like that with most games. Most games, I'm like, oh no, you need to see it through. But this game is just, the way it's structured is really different. Has its pros and cons, obviously, clearly by the, like, how we're talking. But I ultimately think Octopath Traveler, cool experiment, just doesn't really work out in the end. So
no, I think it's that with many JRPGs, there's always an overarching kind of issue, like a bigger issue.
Right, there is none of that.
There's none of that. You just pick up a character, kind of wander around in a circle, and then you do those chapters and job done. And it's that same argument of get to the end, it's great, and this. But I'm like, the gameplay's great, but I don't want to continuously do the same loop, just a harder loop. You know, constantly. Yeah. So the Octopath Traveler. It's a better way to put it. The Octopath Traveler loop is terrible. Everything else about the game is solid. The music is great. Yeah. You know, all that, but yeah, that's how I feel about it. And I'm, like I say, I'm 40 hours in, I'm just like, nah, yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done.
So I'm gonna go out of order here because you're segueing me nicely, so I feel like I have to take it. When you said about the music, Octopath Traveler music is great, but you know what game's music fucking sucks? I don't know if you've ever played this one. I Am Setsuna has some of the worst music in JRPGs, period.
Have I played I Am Setsuna? No,
it's made by Square. It's Final Fantasy-like. It's kind of chibi looking. Like, if you bring it up, like if you do a quick Google, you might recognize it.
I haven't played it, but I know the one you're talking about. They did Lost Sphere as well.
Yes, that's their second game. Yeah. I haven't played that. Have you played that?
No, it had been on my wish list for a while on the Switch.
Same.
And I'm like, again, with many JRPGs, most of my JRPGs are unfinished. And I'm like, I'm not buying another one until I finish this one or that one or this one. So yeah, okay, yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
So here's the thing with it. It's all piano. All of it.
Ew.
All of it. And that trope is cool for maybe 10 hours. And then you hit a point where you're like, holy shit. If I have to listen to one more piano track, I'm gonna blow my brains out. Like, it's cool for like 5 seconds. And then it's like, all right, this piano only score has overstayed its welcome. And honestly, the game kind of gets the same way. I think it's almost in an Octopath Traveler way, except the game kind of starts good and just continuously goes downhill as you progress through it. Like it's not like Octopath. It has like a regular narrative, regularly told story, but like it the game doesn't do anything justice. So the whole game just kind of like goes down as you're going through it, and then you hit the end and you're like, okay.
Yeah, the thing is, like with music in a JRPG helps carry that experience. Like we alluded to in Octopath Traveler. If I'm honest, one of the reasons why I carried on playing that game was because the music is so good.
Yeah.
It's one of the best soundtracks I've heard. But if you're sitting there and you're listening to the same track repeatedly, after 10 or 15 hours, you're gonna want to hit your head against a wall.
And it's not even like it's the same track, but they all sound the same because they're all piano.
They're all
a piano really can't sound different. I don't know if any. Well, that's actually untrue. Some, like a guitar, can sound different. Like I think like when you get to your more classical instruments though, and if it's just one of them, like it's just gonna sound the same. Like I don't think there's a way to like deviate from its sound except for a guitar.
So is the battle theme in I Am Setsuna piano as well then?
Yeah. Yes. Oh. So like it's more upbeat, like don't get me wrong, like it sounds like a battle theme, but like it's all piano. So it all has this like kind of tone and vibe to it, and it works for the world. Like you start out in like a snowy area, the game is really sad. So the piano just kind of helps it, but like
you're not selling it to me. I'm gonna take it off my wish list.
I don't think I could recommend it, to be honest. I platinumed it. I put a lot of time into it, and like the story's just not really worth it. Try it. Would I recommend try it? Sure. If you get it for $5, why not?
Yeah,
but
of course.
I've heard a very similar opinion from other people too. They're like, yeah, it's a game, you know, it's a game.
Yeah, it's good. Well, it segues me into one.
Oh, there
About
we go.
Square.
It's working
Yeah,
out.
see, I'm out of order. There is Dragon Quest is better than Final Fantasy. Period.
Whoa.
Except 10.
Oh, there's an exception. He has an exception to the rule.
There's an
Except for
exception
10. Okay.
Yeah.
Dragon Quest is a series I have absolutely I've never played. I've seen it.
Okay.
Like, I know the style is by the Dragon Ball Z guy. I forget his name. Sorry. What's his name?
Yeah. I can't think
Is
of
it Toriyama? Is that it?
Yeah, I'm gonna Google it so we don't get it wrong.
Yeah. Is it? Toriyama is like in my head. I don't know why. That could be someone else entirely.
No, Toriyama.
Yeah, I was right.
Toriyama.
Yeah,
Yes, you
cool.
were right.
Cool. Yeah. And like that style's really iconic, and I don't really know if they play the same or they kind of have similar stories. So go into it. Why?
The great thing about Dragon Quest is it's kind of stuck with its. Now I might be a different opinion of other people. That's why my opinion is my opinion. But Dragon Quest 11S solidified this.
That's the most recent version of the newest one.
Yeah, it's the most recent version, like the best version of the newest one. It plays brilliantly. It's got an amazing soundtrack. It has a big overarching thing. It's a bit whimsical in places, but that's fine. It's a JRPG and it's pretty good like that.
Yeah.
But when I look at where Final Fantasy went after, I don't know why I'm holding my Apple pen up, but Final Fantasy 9 and 10. And then all of a sudden, the next ones, and I've got no problem with developers and publishers trying something new. That's not what I'm getting at. But it's almost like it's kind of done this, and it's going towards like an action-based combat, and you could see that with 13. Sort of 12 was that kind of change in the combat, then over to 13, and 15 is a real action-based combat game. But
for sure,
actually, for me, Square make other good games, and Dragon Quest, but I think the best way to describe it is everyone sees Square as just a Final Fantasy developer.
Yeah,
actually,
stereotypically, sure.
Yeah, everything else, which is Dragon Quest, is an amazing series. And I actually think now is one of the pinnacles of JRPGs in it that Dragon Quest XI is an absolute fantastic game from start to finish. But I also think because of the turn-based combat, because of just the nature of the game, how it looks, how it plays, I think they're better than Final Fantasy.
Well, period. Like I think I just based on the turn-based combat, and just so we know, I have no hot takes about turn-based combat. I feel like that was like an easy one to be like Final Fantasy was better when it was turn-based combat. Well, that is just the truth. So maybe it is a hot take, but I don't have it on my list. But I like the fact that you're telling me Dragon Quest has kept turn-based going even in 20, with its most recent iteration was like 2019 or something like that when that first came out. And that's kind of my issue with Final Fantasy now. Like, I'm looking forward to 16, but hell, man, I think turn-based just works for the genre better. I think it's more identifiable with a JRPG. Like, even Kingdom Hearts, it's a JRPG, but like I almost shudder to call it that because it's like very different from Final Fantasy.
It's actually kind of ties into another one, which again I'm gonna just batter it out here anyway.
Okay, yeah.
Turn-based JRPGs are better than action-based JRPGs. Period.
Fact.
And that was my hot take on it. Kind of ties into both.
Yeah.
There's a good reason for it with action-based JRPG, and this is how I see it. You kind of don't think of like your next 2 or 3 turns ahead. Like you can't think like that. You're constantly trying to do too much. And with Dragon Quest, I find as well with your party and stuff, it's like chess essentially. You're looking at if I attack here, am I going to lose this person or this, that, and the other? And Final Fantasy 15 was that game where I realized that it was never going to be a Final Fantasy again, like the original Final Fantasy game.
You said 13 or 15?
15 was when I really realized that we were losing that full-blown turn-based. And it's gone. And it's I haven't played 7 Remake. I think it's got a slight ATB.
See, 7 Remake I think is doing it right. So if 16 is anything like Final Fantasy 7 Remake, I think we're on the right track. But like ultimately, I do agree with you. I think like I said it earlier, like it's the truth. If a JRPG isn't turn based, I'm a little bit more like, especially if it's a newer game, I'm a little bit more turned off by it. If it's not like Final Fantasies, it's kind of a shoo-in, right? Like, you know what? You know what's like a guilty pleasure for me right now? I'm like Stranger of Paradise looks pretty good to me.
Stranger of Paradise.
It's the Final Fantasy Origin game.
Oh,
It's with Garland.
Yeah,
It's where the chaos meme comes from.
Yeah. I remember this. Yeah. It's out in March, isn't it?
Yeah, and for some reason I'm like, I don't know why. This is like what I don't like about Final Fantasy, but I'm in. I don't know why.
It looks like Devil May Cry.
Yeah, it's I think they're taking like an interesting like sort of like twist on that game when they're like, oh, like we're gonna retell Final Fantasy 1, but through the perspective of Garland, the first villain of the game. I'm like, that's cool. Like, that's an interesting idea. Like, they've never really done that. And Garland isn't any sort of, I wouldn't, he's probably like the weakest Final Fantasy villain because he is really base. He's just some like time traveling like dude who like you fight in Final Fantasy 1, for those who don't know. He's like the first boss you fight and he goes away and then he comes back at the end of the game. And you find out that like he was kind of like, he's not, he's like Chaos's like avatar. You know, he's the one pulling the strings, but he's not the big bad. Chaos is the big bad in FF1.
I think, like I said, I've got no problem with studios trying something new like this. This is, and it's Koei Tecmo is the developer, or Team Ninja. So it's
Team Ninja,
that kind of Ninja Gaiden kind of, I think, Ninja Gaiden style. There's nothing wrong with trying something new, but for
especially
me,
with spin-offs, right?
Say again?
Especially with the spin-off ones. It's not a main line. So they get more of a, they can play more in the sandbox if they really want to.
Yeah, I think their main line should have stayed turn-based, whether it be the Final Fantasy X system or the one previous. And I think that, Final Fantasy X's turn-based system is one of the best you'll find.
Because it's the most classic. It's the most rooted. And I don't really think, I mean, it is turn-based. It doesn't really like do much crazy. Like, if anything, 13 is that we're doing turn-based, but we're kind of putting it on its head, which is fine. I think 13's combat's pretty cool for the most part. It's active, but like, you don't move around the field like, and I even think Lightning Returns does it well too. And I think 13 too actually does it similar, but I think the way Lightning Returns does it is pretty cool.
I nearly put on here that 13's not that bad a game.
I almost did. I'm like, that's like something everyone says nowadays. Yeah. I never hated 13. I like how like we have like the main list right now, and then we're like we have like the sub list of things that are just coming up. This is actually pretty funny.
Which could have been on there, but Dragon Quest, for anybody, because I remember having this conversation, going back to the Dragon Quest one, they were like, oh, what JRPG you recommend? I said, oh, Final Fantasy X, this, and this. Oh, yeah, and they were like, what about that Dragon Quest series? I'm like, yeah, go play it.
So,
it's incredible.
As a Dragon Quest noob, is it like Final Fantasy where each numbered one is
each number is different? Yeah.
Is it in the same world, though?
Most of them, no, they're in different kind of like
yes but no
regions, that kind of yes but no. Some of them from the past are, some of them aren't. They're all over the place, but all I would say is try 11. 11S is the best starting point.
Right, I was gonna say, so I could jump in, and I tell the same people with Final Fantasy, and it's funny, they go, well, like, that doesn't sound like it makes sense. I'm like, it does. And even when you just said it with Dragon Age, with Dragon Quest, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, but like, if I could play one, I guess I'll try. I'm just like not listening to my own advice with another series.
Honestly, yeah, it's similar. It's pretty much like a carbon copy of how Final Fantasy's released. Dragon Quest has done the same thing. That's as simple as that. And the great thing about 11S is if you love the 2D style, you can play it in the 2D style. You can play it in the 3D. It's such a good game, but it's overshadowed by Final Fantasy
for sure.
And that's a problem.
They're remaking like 6 or 7, right? In the Octopath 2D, 3D.
3. They're making 3. I think
3.
It's 3, and it's in that 2D 3D or 2.5D or whatever they call it.
Yeah, whatever we're calling it.
And I'm so excited. They had the Nintendo Direct the other day. I was gutted we didn't see any of it because that's more exciting than Final Fantasy 16.
You could have just said, I watched the Nintendo Direct. I was disappointed, which I think is a good reaction to any Nintendo Direct you'll ever watch.
I went into it not expecting much, and
I was watching it, and I'm like some people in the Discord, shout out to them, are like, oh, like this is gonna happen. I'm like, you're gonna be disappointed, like you are every fucking time, you crazy people. Like you're not like if you think you're gonna go into a Direct and come out like totally satisfied, you're just wrong. I've seen it happen to you. I'm not a Nintendo fan. I'm on the outside looking in. Like I see what you guys do to yourselves.
Well, I started off like down here. And then the first like 3 games were great. I think it was like Fire Emblem Warriors.
Yeah,
just it's set in the same world as Three Houses. And then they had the Mario Strikers, I think, and there was something else in between them. And then they were like No Man's Sky, and I was like, I have it on Steam. If it can work on a Steam Deck, I'm not buying it on a Switch.
I thought the coolest thing from the Direct was the Earthbound stuff.
Personally. Yeah, I'm not bothered.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that game is it's a JRPG. This is relevant. Come on, guys.
Yeah, there you go.
I think, like, I've never played any of those games, but I find them utterly fascinating. That Nintendo would pump out this, like, really weirdly kiddie game, but, like, really, really dark. It's very strange. It's so not Nintendo. It's just, it really baffles me. And because I was watching somebody play it on stream, and I was like, how did Nintendo make this? It is really baffling.
I was having a conversation this morning, and we were talking about JRPG characters, and it's like Xenoblade Chronicles. We saw the 3rd one get announced at the Direct, which is cool. I'm playing the second.
Yeah,
that's really
another
cool.
series I've never played.
But why are all JRPG female characters dressed the way they're dressed? Can't they be dressed normally to do what they need to do?
How were they dressed in that trailer? I know I hear what you're saying, but like I don't recall.
Not so much in the trailer. We were talking about like Xenoblade Chronicles 2. We were talking about different ones where they literally are
like
wearing
in Nier.
Yeah,
the main character, like it looks like she almost doesn't have nipples.
Yeah, it's just mad.
Like there's like little like windows there that like you could totally see a nip if it was there. And I'm like, what is going on with what she's wearing? Yeah, but
Nintendo greenlit. It's like that's the bit that I don't understand. I'm like,
it is. There's the truth. Like I think Lulu is one of those. Another one from Final Fantasy X. Like she's just like this. She's a big titty goth girl. That's really what she is. Like she just wears a bunch of belts, and like her dress is like held up by her boobs. Like it's just what it is, guys. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, that's it. And it's like, oh, Nintendo greenlit this. What? Someone sat there, and you look at like Princess Peach. She's like, do you know what I mean? And then it's like you look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2's character, and you're like, hang on a minute, these are both Nintendo IPs.
I saw a headline, I think after the Direct, that Princess Daisy is one of the only Nintendo like characters with teeth or something like that. I was like, what? I was like, okay, sure. Let's pretend. I maybe it was in Strikers or something, but they had a picture of her and she has teeth. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, everyone has teeth. Like, what do you mean? I didn't look into it further than that. But
that's kind of mad to think about.
That's like an Odyssey when they like Mario was shirtless and Mario had nipples and everyone was freaking out.
Everyone lost their mind because Mario had nipples. Of course he has nipples. He's human.
So, did you go over 3 of yours at this point or 4?
Yeah, I've done 3. So I did turn-based is better. I kind of slotted that in with the Dragon Quest.
I got lost in the conversation.
You're all right. Yeah, good.
So I'm going on my second one. No. Yes.
No. 3rd. Hang on. So you did. No. You went out of order. What was your first one?
Yeah, the I Am Setsuna is the worst music.
Yeah,
I've only done one.
It must be your second. So yeah,
this is my second. There was I could kind of. All right, we were talking about Final Fantasy X, right?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy X-2 has the best job system in RPGs, hands
I'm
down.
not going to sit here and argue with you because it's true.
That game gets an exorbitant amount of shit. More than 13, more than 15. Like, I get it. It's girl power, the game, but with Final Fantasy characters.
So what?
Right, but that's why people don't like it. I'm like, is it weirdly toned from 10? Sure, but like, I played it recently. I platinumed it. I don't mind it. And then I'm like, the garment grid system is fantastic.
One of the best battle systems in JRPG.
And I'm trying to
job systems.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the Final Fantasy games that have jobs that you like freelance and you switch out. I think it's just 1, 2, 3, and 10, 2?
Yeah.
That you really switch them around. Like 7 doesn't really have classes. Everyone can do everything. I've never played 9.
Have classes. 9.
They do, right? No? Because Vivi's a black mage. I know that for a fact.
Right. Final Fantasy 9 job system. There's a job system in Final Fantasy 9. Oh, hang on. No. What did I just read here? There is no job system in 9.
Yeah, but they're assigned, like they have a class. It's like
they have a class.
4 is the same way, where like Cecil's the Dark Knight and the Paladin, and Tella's like the Sage.
10.2 allows you to do the switch out, and you can kind of play your character the way you want to play them.
Yeah, end game for 10. Yeah, that's how it is. Like
sorry,
everyone.
10.2. Sorry, yeah.
Oh no, wait, you're talking 10.2?
Yeah. I meant 10.2.
Yeah, well. Just even since I brought it up with 10, everyone starts within like an archetype, and then like the end game, everyone can do everything, which is kind of cool, unnecessary but kind of cool. Like if you're like doing penance, if you're gonna fight an end boss, like you have to do all that stuff. But like if you're just doing like some of the post game content, like you're not gonna like see all that shit. Which is fine.
But yeah, the job system in 10.2 is one of the best.
I wonder if they would ever go back to switching jobs. I find it a little bit anxiety inducing because I don't even know how I got it through 10.2, but like I'm always like, well, I want to be like optimized, like I want to have like I want to be doing like
the most damage.
Not even the most damage, but like one thing I'm always kind of weird about is like, all right, like if there's a thief, I want to have a thief because I want to be able to steal things, and I don't want to it's FOMO. I don't want to miss out on shit. I have FOMO in games like probably an unnecessary length, but like that kind of stuff. Like I don't want to like if there's missables, I want to make sure I'm equipped to not miss those things. So like thief and stealing is something that I'm like, okay, like in 10.2. Like I always have to have a thief in there because like if I need to steal something, I want to be able to do it. And for the most part, if I'm trying to remember, I don't think there's a ton of items like that. But in Octopath, there's missable steals. And in other games, I'm sure there are missable steals, but I don't think in 10.2 there's many. Unless
Bravely
it's like
Default 2 does a good job system.
There's a really good segue into one of mine, but Bravely Default, never played it for a very specific reason, which is obvious. We'll get into it. But what is Bravely Default's job system? Is it just
in Bravely Default 2 job system? It does a trying to think what it's called. It's like you get a sphere which has a different job, and each character can be these different jobs. So you can max out the jobs on every single character, but you can then mix them. So you could have a hunter white mage, or you could have a thief monk.
Does it like mix the skills, or do you just have the skills of both?
You have the skills of both.
Okay.
Yeah, you have skills of both.
So it's kind of like Octopath.
Yeah, it is kind of like Octopath. But in Octopath, the characters have like a special, So if you with the thief's guy, if you have a thief job equipped and you're walking through town, you can't just steal from people, can you? The thief guy has to do that. Therion, whatever how you pronounce his name. Therion. Yeah. Where in you don't have that feature in Bravely Default. So, but you have like your jobs are quite mixed, and I like that about Bravely Default 2 is it's one of those job systems that you can mix and match, and min-max, if you like.
Yeah. But I think that the bringing up Bravely Default, I think goes into my next hot take. So this is 3 for me.
3 for you.
Stop making RPGs console exclusives, for God's sake. It's already a niche genre. You don't need to seclude it on the fucking Switch, Square, with Bravely Default and with Octopath up until last year. Why are we doing this? Why? What's the point? There's no point.
Bravely Default is now on Steam.
Yeah, but it should be on other consoles.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I'm of same agreement.
You're just you're wrong though.
Yeah, you're wrong about where it is. No, but I'm in the same agreement of the fact is that I just hate all console exclusives.
Yeah, specifically, it should be on PC and it should be on everything else.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why leave it on Switch? Octopath did pretty good on Xbox, I heard, and that's part of Game Pass.
For me, it's not a console exclusive because you'll always get console. It's timed console exclusives.
Yeah, but the thing is, Square's secret about it. With Octopath, they were just it's gonna be on Xbox next week.
Yeah.
What?
Why? Yeah. Why?
When did you haven't yeah, you heard me right.
It was the same with Monster Hunter Rise on Twitch. We then found out it was coming to PC a year later, so it was timed exclusive.
Yeah.
From the start, and it's I hate that.
I hope Bravely Default comes to Xbox or PlayStation. Persona's the same way. Why is especially with is 5 on PC? It is, right?
No, Persona 4 is finally on PC, and it sold really well.
Yeah,
and they went. Atlas were like, well, maybe what we better do is put some more of our games out on different systems. Yeah, no, freaking duh.
Yeah, it's just kind of why? Yeah, you're not I don't think Persona 5 does well because it's a PlayStation exclusive. I don't think that's a good argument at this point.
It does well because it has good music, a good battle system. It's a good game. But let others people play it. Simple as that.
Right. Yeah. And I'm very weird about JRPGs. So I might have mentioned this on Desert Island Games. Maybe. I don't know why I would have brought this up, but I have a feeling I told you. So tell me if it sounds familiar. I played Final Fantasy VII. The first time I played the original, I played it on PC.
Yeah, you did. Yes.
Yeah. I fucking hated it. I hated it. And mainly because it was a janky port on PC, and it's this game isn't meant to be played here. It's meant to be played with a controller, and that's kind of it's the same. Yeah. So I did say this, and I was talking about the pixel remasters. I'm I'm not playing them on PC. Yeah. Why would I want to do that? I heard, and I heard some issues about the pixel remasters on PC. I'm why aren't they on console? It can't be that hard to port those games. There's no excuse. There literally isn't. How are they locked?
They're on phones. They're on phones.
Right. It just doesn't make sense. And that's what makes me mad. Because I want to play a JRPG on a console with a controller. Oh, but you can plug a controller into a PC. No. If I'm on PC, I'm playing on a keyboard and mouse. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
I have both consoles.
It's like the Final Fantasy remake that's on Epic. It released to so many bugs.
Did it?
Yeah.
Did I know that? I may have known that and kind of forgot. Yeah, and it's the same thing with that. It's I know I have it, so I'm not complaining about it, and it's supposed to be on Xbox, actually. It's supposed to. They said it would come out on Xbox. I think tangentially said it's it would eventually release, but nothing. Because I every so often when people talk about Ff7 Remake, they bring that up, and I'm oh yeah, because Kingdom Hearts did it.
Yeah.
And what? Why is Kingdom Hearts available everywhere, but Final Fantasy isn't? And Persona isn't. I know they're different companies, but it doesn't make any sense. Why Kingdom Hearts out of all series has to be on everything? Yeah. Literally, every game is on every system now, even Switch.
Yeah.
It's strange. Why pick and choose? Why not just do everything like that?
Yeah. And then you have Kingdom Hearts that actually, if you try and get involved in Kingdom Hearts now, You had no chance. Like the story is all over the place, and
yeah. I honestly, if anyone, I mean, if you're like getting into Kingdom Hearts for the first time, I feel like you have to know what you're getting into. Like, there's no way you don't.
Yeah.
There's what, like 7 or 8 games at this point, probably.
Yeah.
Maybe, give or take. I couldn't imagine be like, where do I even fucking start? Like, you sit down and like you're like, what the hell? 358 over 2? What does that mean?
Yeah. Why?
Like,
and they say Metal Gear Solid story is convoluted.
I mean, it is and it isn't. I think Metal Gear Solid's easier to understand. Kingdom Hearts is just kind of like, because Metal Gear Solid's based in like reality in a way. In a way, it's based in reality. Yeah. It's easier to understand. But Kingdom Hearts is, it's a fucking fantasy La La Land. So it's not based in reality. So it's harder. It's even harder to understand.
Do you want to shoot the next one, or do you want me to shoot?
Yeah, you shoot. I don't want to.
Why do all JRPGs or most JRPGs have to be 80 hours plus long?
See,
why?
It's a fair assessment. I feel like any game you could take off JRPG and because JRPGs are like even back. I guess now it's kind of hard to say because there are other games that can be like 100 hours plus long. But like back in the day, like when you said JRPG, you were like, oh, that's long.
Yeah,
like it was the stereotype, and it still is for sure. Yeah. And that's another one where it's like, I don't agree with you, but I don't really disagree with you.
But for me,
I get it.
If you're making it 80 hours or 100 hours, then make it for worthwhile content. Don't have us doing meaningless or having to grind to get to a point just so they could extend that. Like the final boss in a JRPG is level 70, and you finish all the content up to like you finish all that content, and you're only like level 55. Or something like that, and then you've got to grind to get to the last point. I think a game can be over 100 hours if it's meaningful from start to finish.
So, where does Persona 5 fall for you with that?
I haven't played it, I haven't finished it, so yeah, that's I
because that's a game. Even with the Royal Edition is just like it is like a fucking 160-hour game, like period. Like,
and I'm saying it, and I'm playing it through Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is a 250-hour game.
Jesus. Yeah,
if you do all of the stuff.
And like I haven't played Persona either, but it's a game like I'm like, oh, I want to play it, but like I'm gonna play it when like really there's nothing else out.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to jump in. I don't want to start eating that game and have Horizon's coming out next week, and then Elden Ring and Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons. Like this, especially this month, February, it is packed. Like I'm not starting a JRPG.
I mean. How Long to Beat has it down. I mean, not that it's a great site, but it's a good enough kind of like view of what it is. Completionist Run will take you 254 hours apparently. The main story plus a few extra bits is over 100 hours.
It's pretty gross.
It's ridiculous.
It's pretty gross.
But Xenoblade Chronicles 3 will be the same.
Yeah.
If not more. And, it's like, just give me a JRPG that's 15 hours. Job done.
I think that's like almost impossible.
Yeah, I know, but
then it kind of wouldn't be a JRPG, right? It would just be something else.
But no, it could still be a JRPG, but short. I think there's good example is.
See, then I think people would just complain.
Trials of Mana, I think, is like 20 hours.
But that's old, right?
The remake. There's a remake.
Right, but it's still
It's still an old game, but is
the remake kind of like a full reimagining then?
Yeah, I think it's like all 3D, and it's kind of nice.
Okay.
I mean, I'm speaking of as in like I played it, but I haven't actually played it. Trial of Mana? Yeah, Trials of Mana. Yeah, Trials of Mana, the 2020 version is 21 hours apparently, according to How Long to Beat. JRPG.
Yeah, I think like the original Final Fantasies are in like a similar ballpark. Like I know they're a lot long, not that long.
I think for me it comes down to that kind of like it won't be long before JRPGs are live services.
I mean, Genshin Impact.
Yeah, it's a JRPG and it's a live service.
Not that I refuse to play that game. Like, I don't have any hate on it, but like, I'm not touching that game.
No, I won't touch it either because I won't touch it with a 40-foot.
I really don't know much about it other than it is like a live service, free to play game, and it's. I think it's Korean actually. I don't think it's Japanese.
Yeah. I used to have quite an addictive nature, so like
for sure.
Hearthstone, FIFA, FIFA Ultimate Team, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, terrible. And Genshin Impact would be the same thing. So I refuse to play it out of, and I don't like those predatory style games.
Hate
it.
For sure. That makes sense.
Especially with like how busy I am. We spoke last. I run a martial art club, a family, having to try and fit. And when you have like a game that's like 100 hours, and you only sit down for like 3 or 4 hours at a time, you barely feel like you make a dent in the game.
You know, even with me, I don't have nearly those responsibilities, but like I don't like do a long sessions of gaming anymore. It's usually like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I like switch a game. I don't know why. I think it's just a rhythm I developed, like juggling more than one game realistically.
Yeah, of course.
Which I've been trying to do less of this year, which I'm successul at.
I see you platinumed Red Dead, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a grind.
That looked awful. The game is incredible, but
it's incredible. Yeah, but like for what you have to do with that game to 100% it and get all the achievements is like a joke.
It's ridiculous because a lot of it's online as well, isn't it?
Well, I mean, there is a Red Dead Online portion for it, but it's not. That's not where your time's going to be focused.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, which is surprising. It's like, no, it's the 70 gold medals for which is you pretty much have to replay the entire game to get 70 gold medals. Like you can skip some here and there, but like, you know what? I got it with like the last mission was my 70th and I was like, yeah. Like I timed it right. Or like I like skip like very like accidentally. And I was just like, oh shit, like I'm gonna like finish up with the last mission. So I like literally replayed the game, not like through mission select, which is not, you know, it cuts out the in between stuff.
Yeah, that's why I'm quite glad the Switch doesn't have achievement system.
Yeah, it's a hard life.
I'm quite glad.
It's a tough life.
I struggle to complete a game, let alone would hunt the achievements. So yeah, that hot take. I don't think it's like an unreasonable hot take in 2022 to say.
Nah, you know, yeah, I think it's in a very of the times kind of comment. Hot take. Yeah.
So okay, let's see your next one.
My next one, we brought up Final Fantasy VII. This is a Final Fantasy VII one. And yeah, I'll just be frank with you. If you haven't played the original Final Fantasy VII, you cannot appreciate the remake.
I mean, I hate that game.
With the remake or the original?
I genuinely hate the original. But It's not the game, so hear me out.
That's a hot take too.
Yeah, my biggest hot take is Final Fantasy VII. The original is so overrated.
I mean, we said it. This is probably how I told the story. I thought that as well, and then I replayed it, and I'm like, okay.
But it's not that I don't appreciate what it's. I'm fed up with being told by every single
that it's
person
like the best game ever.
That it's the best game ever.
Yeah, I can
fed up
understand
with
that.
Like,
and the opinion really doesn't come from the perspective of it's the best game ever. You can't appreciate the remake. It's like the story stuff.
Yeah.
Like that game really is built with the implication that you know the Final Fantasy VII legacy, its characters, like it like when you get to the end, which I don't know if I want to spoil it or like it's hard to probably like explain without bringing it up entirely.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me.
Do you know anything about the ending
of what, the original or the
remake?
No. And currently it's like nearly £100 to buy here in the UK, so the likelihood of me buying it anytime soon is very slim.
Okay, so if you haven't played Ff7 Remake, shut your ears for a little bit. So what very long story. Long story short, you find out that, like, I think this is kind of like what they're laying down a little bit. Like, not everything is to the T with the remake. There's some things that are changed. Sephiroth's introduced earlier. Like, things are like different but the same. Like, different enough.
I think they said it was always going to be a reimagining of this Final Fantasy VII story,
right? But like, they're telling like a meta narrative with that. I think the Sephiroth of Final Fantasy VII Remake is a Sephiroth who's already gone through the events of Final Fantasy VII and has come back into another universe.
Okay.
Because of like what he says and how he like basically the last fight, you fight Sephiroth as you're leaving Midgar.
Yeah.
You fight Sephiroth plain as day, like normal, like he normally looks. Like,
yeah.
And you beat him, and like, you know, you have a big clash, big explosion, it goes white. And Cloud, it's the end of FF7, Cloud's like plunging into the vast unknown, and Sephiroth is standing there like he is at the end of the game. And like, they kind of have a dialogue, and he like, one of the things he says is like 7 seconds till the end, and he's like, what will you do with it? And he's acting as if like he's been here before and he knows what's happening. And another implication of that is you see a reality where Zack lives and he carries Cloud into Midgar. And there's this little like dog named Snap. Is its name? Midgar has like a mascot dog for like its propaganda. And I think it's a beagle. And in this different timeline, you see a chip bag like fly past the screen, and it's that dog, but it's a different breed. And you're like, oh, okay. And that's the timeline where Zack killed all those Shinra guards and he lives and he brings Cloud into Midgar. And I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? This is crazy. Like, this is really cool. Like, but like, if you've never played Final Fantasy VII or like Crisis Core, like, you have none of that context.
Yeah.
And I think you're missing out on a big point of the game, which is like, sure, like you're replaying Final Fantasy VII, but like, this is a different thing we're doing here. Yeah. We're not just retelling the game.
No, I remember like interviews as the run-up of it release, they were saying it was going to be a reimagining of the story. They were going to broaden the horizon.
And they really meant
the universe. And for all intents and purposes, like, they did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
Like, what I've seen, I haven't played the remake. I should rephrase it. I say £100. It's £70 in the UK, not 100. Before someone sends me an angry tweet on Twitter saying, "You don't know what you're talking about."
It was expensive. I understand.
It's expensive. It's ridiculous it does bundle all of the content in one. When there's a sale on the Epic Store, maybe I'll dive in. But at the same time,
I think it's kind of worth it. Giving what I just said too, and there's like these spirits that kind of like are in the game that aren't in the original, and they essentially what they are is like they're keeping the timeline on course. Like as close to the original as they can get it. So when you reach the top of the Shinra building in the beginning, Sephiroth kills Barret.
Right.
But the spirit takes the stab, but he still stabs him, but like the spirit like goes into his body as he gets stabbed to like take the blow. And you think Barret just fucking died. He doesn't die. So like, you know, this isn't correct. So like, you know, and like, you know, a scene goes by and then Barret just gets up and he's like, what the hell just happened? Like, as we're all kind of, and like Red 13 is like, he's like, oh, like they, you know, like, I think they're called Whispers of Fate. Like he knows what they are or something like that. And he's like alluding to the fact like fate and stuff. And it's like, oh my God, this kind of all makes sense. And Aerith seems to know things and like, she's being very like prophetic very early on. So it's kind of like, I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with this. Like, just from that perspective of this, like, multiversal fucking FF7. Like,
they've seen what happened with Marvel Cinematic Universe and said, we can do that.
Yeah, and, like, even with, like, DC and stuff and, like, the Flash. It's very Flash to me when they do multiversal stuff. I'll say DC was doing it first with like the Flash TV show. They were doing like different Earths and shit. Marvel just catching up. Did you do you got one more?
No,
right?
I haven't done my final one, but with Final Fantasy VII, it is definitely very difficult for me to enjoy it just because of purely the same with Kingdom Heart fandom. That's the problem. It's the fandom behind the game.
I'm playing through Resident Evil 4, and I'm like, it's good, but like, it's kind of hard to like see or like feel what everyone else feels about Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I don't hate it. It's good. But like I'm playing it in like 2022. Like I'm not playing it in 2005 or whenever it came out.
And you've been told constantly this is the best game ever.
Right.
It's like let me make that opinion if it is the best game. Right. And I'll decide if it's the best game to me.
And I'm just like, well, it's good, but like I don't know. I think I kind of had the wrong impressions about like what exactly it was. Because of the way everyone was talking. But anyway, what is your fifth?
So my fifth kind of ties into my first. So it's I don't know how to put this because I was writing this earlier, but it's the saying "it's get better the more time you play it" is an absolute bullshit saying. I know after 5 hours if I don't like a damn game, I don't care if it's a 50-hour experience or what. If I don't like it, if it doesn't reach out to me in the first like hour, couple of hours, or the first, I'll give a game 10 hours. I'll give a game 10 hours of my time. If a game hasn't like hit me in those 10 hours, I'm putting it down. Job done. It's out. And I hate that saying that people go, give it some time, but then I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, people throw that around for sure.
I'm so guilty of it with Final Fantasy X because Final Fantasy X is the epitome of this saying. Because right at the beginning, Final Fantasy X, it's like, what?
Really? You think the beginning's bad? Really?
I don't think it's bad, but you have to kind of get to a certain point to really appreciate what you've been through. And I think it's that kind of, for me anyway. When I first played it, I was like, what? And then
I think people say the same thing about Kingdom Hearts 2 and its Roxas prologue, and I'm like, I like it. I'm like,
okay.
I know it's like 6 hours long, but like, I like it.
But for me, it's that kind of typical 10 hours. Like, okay, yeah, no, give it 20 hours. Why? I don't like it after 10 hours. Why am I going to sit here for another 10? Like, yeah, that drives me mad.
Yeah, I feel like Octopath was pretty much that for you. Or like, I don't know if anyone said that to you. I would never say that. If you've played Octopath, I think that's tough to say. You get into that game pretty quick, and you kind of get the gist of it. Maybe not with the characters and stuff, but like the gameplay like starts right away.
I think there has to be a few things that connect for me with a JRPG. I have to have a good story, not right off the bat, but I have to know that there's an overarching goal. I know that's a JRPG trope, but I like that JRPG trope.
Yeah, I mean, good trope to have. Your main character's solo for like a few hours, then he meets like 3 more people, and the plot kind of like assimilates, and then maybe 3 more people join the party, and then you're there. You go. It's
I like that standard formula.
I do too. I like it too. And FF10 kind of does it differently because you get everyone pretty much at the beginning except Riku, who you get Auron. Like, and Auron. And Riku is like, there's always that one party member who's always like late game, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, but like, yeah, Auron comes in like, I think like a fine time, but then Riku, you're like kind of halfway done the journey at that point.
Yeah. Not only that, you've unlocked her sphere grid. You're like, well, I've got half her stuff. I don't need you. Except for my mix ability, because then her mix ability is completely and utterly overpowered.
Yeah, required in endgame. Like you need her. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like.
I'm trying to think of
13
a game
you switch around. 12
recently.
12 you switch around and then get everyone.
Yeah.
Because like you switch between like Pinello and then you have like Balthier and Fran, and then like they switch out. Pinello comes back, and then you have Ash and Vossler, and Vossler sticks around, but he's not a main party member. And then like Larsa's going by like Lamont, and then he's in your party, and you're like. But like for the most part, everyone's pretty much like in your party like pretty quickly with 12. 4 is all over the place. 5 and 6, I don't know. And then 7, you have optional party members.
Yeah.
Which is pretty crazy. Yeah. I couldn't imagine like playing without Yuffie or Vincent in 7. They're kind of like, they're like staple characters at this point.
Yeah, they are part of the, I'm just trying to look for my Steam library to find, I can't remember what someone recommended me to play the other day. And I tried it and I was like, I really don't. They're like, what? No. How? That's a great game. I'm like, it might be, but I can't remember the game. Okay. I'm searching, but that's my issue is that people love to throw that phrase around where they're like, and they use it with JRPGs a lot. And I think,
I think it's easy to kind of say that for sure.
Yeah.
Because of just the length of them, right? It's just like you have a lot of game there. It's like, all right, just give it more time because it's long. It's an easy like thing to be like, give more time, you'll like it, Yeah,
and it's that constant like, oh yeah, you'll be fine with it. Will I? Like, it was Edge of Eternity. That's what it is.
That's newer, right? Like this year.
Yeah, that's newer. Like, it came out in 2021. And it launched on Xbox Game Pass, and someone was like, give it a go. So I did. And I got like 4 hours in, and I was like, do you know what?
Fuck
nah. I'm not like, I know it's by an indie team, and it's kickstarted, and they got some cool ideas, but it's worse that the animation of the characters is. It reminds me of when Mass Effect Andromeda dropped. It takes you out of that experience straight away. Like, just the voice, like the lip sync, and the characters look dead. Like, all that kind of it's just really difficult to get past those kind of things when you're looking at these characters a lot. So it was Edge of Eternity they recommended that I play, and I was like, yeah, I tried it. Not for me.
So my last one, I'm glad it hasn't come up at all yet. May have given it away. I don't know if I brought it up to you when I was on your show last. I think I did. But my last hot take. Lost Odyssey is the most underrated JRPG of all time. Because it's a fact.
It's not a hot take. I completely agree with you.
Yeah. And it has something to do with the fact that it's a fucking console exclusive and it's locked on Xbox 360.
Yep.
And the only way you can play it, thank God for backwards compatibility, you can play it on, modern day Xbox hardware, but like, how has that game not gotten at least a PC port? It's great. And like, that studio is, I think, totally defunked. Mistwalker, and like, it was Sakaguchi, who's, the father of FF, and it's great. I don't think there's anything really bad about that game. It's a very like different style JRPG. It's really interesting. It's Final Fantasy, but it's clearly trying to do things different. And yeah, it's great.
I think you'll find the reason it's not got the port is because of Mistwalker and Field Plus, the two developers. And it would be the same as Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls finally got the PS5. Because Demon's Souls was developed by Atlas, and it was developed by Atlas, but then published by Atlas and Bandai Namco. Like the right, I might be wrong on that one, but I know the rights for Demon's Souls was it was a mess. It wasn't until
okay.
Go on.
No, go ahead.
I think it was when Sony finally bought Blue Point, I think they did the remake, didn't they?
Yes.
Which they finally sorted all of the arguments out.
I think Demon's Souls is made by From. Maybe the publishing is where the weirdness comes from. I don't think I knew any of that. You just said it.
Yeah, the original. I've got the. Unfortunately, it now brings up the new one. I want the original.
Well, kind of jumping off your point while you're looking that up.
Yeah.
I feel like Xbox is, and they're still trying to do it, is capture that JRPG Japanese audience. And I think I know that was the idea behind Mistwalker, was to bring JRPGs to Xbox to make them a viable source.
Yeah, it was.
That's exactly what the studio's point was. And they did that, and was it Blue Dragon? Was the other one?
Blue Dragon was fantastic.
And they're just underrated gems at this point.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they're like. I think it was Blue Dragon. I don't think Miss Walker did anything besides Lost Odyssey.
Blue Dragon was. I'll find out who made it. But going back to the Demon Souls one, it was published by Atlas, Bandai Namco, Sony Interactive Entertainment, Atlas US. So it's published by 5 different studios.
Wow. I wonder how that happened.
And it was just this ridiculous issue.
Atlas publishes. Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was all over the place. And then I think when when Sony bought Blue Point, they were like, right, we're getting this sorted out. We want to remake this game.
They developed that before they were acquired. So
yeah,
I'm sure that was the game that broke the camel's back with that acquisition was Demon Souls. I'm sure they were like, yeah, you guys come on in.
yeah. So Blue Dragon is an Xbox 360 exclusive. Again, done by Mistwalker and Artoon.
Yeah. So, but Toriyama was involved in that too, I think.
Yeah, Toriyama.
Yeah, because it's Dragon Balls. It's funny. But like they and I know Nobuo Uematsu I think did Lost Odyssey's OST too, and it's good. It's great. Like again, going back to Lost Odyssey, that whole game is really good. And if you have an Xbox and you're a JRPG fan, go get it off the marketplace and go play it. It's great. It's I think it's pretty long. It's cool. Like I think it tries to do some like time travel-y things that I think works in the end and like is interesting. I think Kaim Argonar, I think is his full name, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
I think that's it.
Yeah,
like he's a pretty interesting character, and it's like the game, like in its prologue, like sets him up as this like, you know, like immortal dude, and you're like, whoa, what's going on? And then, you know, once the game like starts fleshing it out, it's like, oh, okay, like this is interesting. I don't think a JRPG has really done what Lost Odyssey did, and it does a different like kind of cinematic approach with its like sometimes it like does like almost like a comic book panel thing where it's like giving you different perspectives of like different characters reacting, and it's like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, this isn't like bad or anything. It's like it's like Kojima doing weird things and everyone being okay with it. Like that's what it kind of is to me. It's like, oh, we're just like, this isn't bad. We're just gonna do this differently because like we could just focus on one character's face, but like why not have 4?
Yeah, it was a good game. You know, another underrated just piggyback on it is The Last Remnant. That's
a game
JRPG.
I've known about, I think, since it's come out.
Yeah. It's an underrated JRPG, you know, and I think the JRPG genre gets overshadowed by the big guns, and the little ones get swept under the carpet so quickly. Especially
like at this point in time, it's just kind of like, yeah, JRPGs are this just like niche. I mean, they've always been like sort of a niche genre, but like, yeah, now even more so. I think it's funny how like we had our list of 10, and essentially like from those 10, like there were like the spin-offs of those. Like we had hot takes and then the hot takes. It was a good conversation. But like, yeah, and it's clear that we like both of our opinions like kind of align in a lot of different ways. Like we're kind of like on the same page with certain things. Like if somebody like really contested the fact that it's like, I think like Persona should be exclusive, and it's just like, why? Like why would you like contest that opinion? Like what purpose does it being exclusive really have?
Yeah,
and you know what?
I agree.
I don't know. This was really hard once I started like writing things down. I was like, this is harder than I thought it was gonna be. And it's funny how like easy things came to us as we were talking, but like sitting down and I'm like, what's like my definitive like hot takes about JRPGs? And I was like, huh. Like
yeah, I have this really weird like opinion on them, in the sense that I love them, and the genre could be so much better in the sense that it could be wider available. But I do fear where the genre is going in the future.
Yeah,
especially with the NFTs and live services and
NFTs.
You know, all of this kind of stuff. And it, you know, I'm surprised Ubisoft has not made an open world JRPG live service NFT thing.
I mean, they kind of already do it. I mean, they're turning Assassin's Creed into a live service game, essentially. I think they're like really like, I think they're like not as ballsy to just do it, and they're slowly doing it. Like, I don't know if you saw this like recent AC DLC for Valhalla is like, it's a DLC, but like they're spinning it off into its own game. I'm like, they're already like starting this shit.
Yeah.
Like they're up to something. Like they're not just doing that because like it can be its own thing. It's like, nah, they got a plan. They got a plan. And Square, like, does Square have a plan with JRPGs? No, they really don't. They don't. Square doesn't have a plan with goddamn anything. I don't think. But like JRPGs are always going to be niche, and I'm fine with that.
And the niche they are, and hopefully we still get some really good ones. That's what I
and we do. You know,
yeah.
I think a lot of the games we mentioned a lot of older games, but a lot of the games we have been talking about are, you know, at least, you know, less than 10 years old. Like they're still coming out and they're still great.
There's I can't think what it is. Tales of
Arise.
Of Arise is what is next on my hit list.
So that's the same thing with Final Fantasy, I think. It's like they're all like they're not connected at all. It's like, I know there's Tales of Berseria, and I'm like, what the fuck is this game?
But first on my hit list is Triangle Strategy. Dumbest name in the world.
I meant to bring that up because that was my example of like, why is this console exclusive? Like why? Like why? It's like a tactics game. It's even more niche than a JRPG because it's like it's a FF Tactics game.
It's gonna be literally spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Tactics.
It's exactly what it is for 100%.
Set in the Octopath universe.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I believe so. I might be wrong on that. I'm gonna get shot if it is wrong. Triangle.
There's a gun at your head.
Yeah, Triangle Strategy. There it is. It's got all the art style from it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. That's kind of as like, oh, it's Octopath, but it's a tactics game.
Yeah. Octopath Universe. That's not. It's supposed to be Universe. Neither Nintendo or Square have confirmed whether the two games are in the same universe. Shut up then. I thought they were. Yeah,
You're dead.
I'm done. I thought they were.
I've
I've got a funny feeling it's going to be something like the Eevee Alliance in Final Fantasy.
Okay.
You know, that's what I. The worst bit about, as much as I hate Octopath, there's a sequel or a prequel that's now coming to the West, and it's on phones, and apparently it's incredible.
Yes.
But it's a free.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. When I was on the Reddit, I was seeing like this acronym, and I'm like, Octopath, like COT. Like, I don't even know what the name of the game is, but I'm like, what the fuck is this?
It's a prequel to Octopath, but it's a gacha game, I think, on mobile.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I hate about JR. Here you go. I've got another one. JRPG series that gets spun into a bleeding gacha game.
I mean, that's what. No, I don't think Genshin is gacha, but it's a live service.
I know Genshin is gacha all the way, but that was never a series before. Like Octopath is loved by hundreds of people. So they do a prequel and you put it on your mobile. It's free to play and it's gacha. I believe it's gacha. And it's like, why do that? Give people put it on the systems. If you've got the resources to develop that game for a mobile, you've got the resources to develop it for an actual game to the systems.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well,
dear.
I think that does it for us. Before I do my outro, Richard, where can the people find you? I mean, the links are in the description, folks, but please read your stuff.
You can find me on Twitter at @thatchapzap, or you can find my show on Twitter, which is Island Games_pod. But you can find me talking about games on a desert island with many, many guests, including Anthony, which was a great show we did a few weeks back.
Yeah.
On Desert Island Games, and you can find that on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts from. You can find it. I do now 2 shows a week. One at the beginning of the week, which is my interview, and then one at the end of the week, which is doing my Dig Rewind, where I'm playing from my backlog or the news, anything like that. So it's 2 shows a week on Desert Island Games.
Nice, very nice. Well, thank you for coming on. This has been
Not a
this was
problem.
fun. It was a shit storm at the start between the two of us having technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've had technical difficulties that bad where like I was like freaking out. I was like, what's going on? And I was running back and forth like a crazy person, but it's good. It's good.
All good.
It's in the bag. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching or listening on youtube.com/Delco Nerd Network or on podcast services, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, just like Richard was doing. I'm just like, it's out there on what you listen to, most likely. You can find us on Facebook.com/Delco Nerd Network, as well as at Delco Nerds on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We're on TikTok now. You can go to our website, delconerdnetwork.com, where you can find all of this information and a link to our Discord server where you can join, where we talk about all sorts of shit, including JRPGs. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, things for the good of the group, delconerds@gmail.com. Guys, thanks for listening today. Stay nerdy.